The Caliph were apex predators from a world where mercy meant extinction. Their sleek, obsidian exoskeletons gleamed under the harsh lighting of Outpost Arcturus 9, and their vertical pupils tracked movement with predatory precision. They had conquered 14 systems before humanity ever reached the stars. They didn't negotiate. They didn't compromise. They certainly didn't smile. Until they met Maya Reeves. Owen Chen watched the security footage for the 47th time, still unable to believe what he was seeing. As the Outpost's xenobiologist, he'd studied hundreds of species, cataloged thousands of behavioral patterns, but nothing, absolutely nothing had prepared him for this. The timestamp read 0847 hours. The location, Recreation Base 7, designated for interspecies cultural exchange. Maya, the Outpost's human ambassador, and Owen's former colleague from Earth, sat cross-legged on the floor surrounded by 5 Caliph juveniles. Their parents, towering warriors who'd negotiated the latest trade agreement, observed from the perimeter with what Owen had learned to recognize as cautious interest. "You have to watch this part," Lieutenant Sarah Park said, leaning over his shoulder. She'd been the one to flag the footage initially. Right there. Maya was teaching the cubs. Owen still couldn't believe anyone would use such a domestic term for young Caliph, a human children's game. Pat a cake, of all things. Her hands moved in the familiar rhythm, clapping against those of the smallest cub, whose name translated roughly to shadow that hunts. Then it happened. Maya smiled. Not a diplomatic smile, or a professional courtesy. A genuine, bright, unreserved human smile that crinkled the corners of her eyes and showed her teeth. Every species in the known galaxy interpreted the baring of teeth as a threat display. The Caliph, especially. On their homeworld, showing one's mandibles meant immediate violence, was imminent. Shadow that hunts should have recoiled, should have hissed, should have triggered every instinct that had kept their species alive for millions of years. Instead, the cub tilted its triangular head, studying Maya's face with intense curiosity. And then Owen still felt his breath catch the cub's mandibles slowly parted in a clear, deliberate imitation. Not a threat display. Not a warning. A copy of Maya's expression, however anatomically impossible it should have been. "She's smiling back," Owen whispered, though he'd seen it dozens of times now. "Keep watching," Sarah urged. Within seconds, the other 4 cubs noticed. They crowded closer, their luminescent eyes fixed on Maya's face. One by one, they attempted their own versions of the smile. Some managed only slight mandible movements. Others produced expressions that looked almost comical, but the intent was unmistakable. Maya, to her credit, didn't miss a beat. She clapped her hands in delight, praising each cub's attempt. "That's wonderful. You're all naturals." The adult Caliph in the background stirred. Owen had learned to read their body language enough to recognize confusion, perhaps even concern, but Maya was oblivious. Or more likely, deliberately ignoring the breach in protocol. She'd always been like that, seeing connection where others saw only danger. "Now watch the parents," Sarah said. The largest adult ambassador, Krathix, commander of the Caliph delegation, moved forward. Owen's hand instinctively went to the emergency alert on his console. First contact protocols were strict. Do not provoke predator species, especially around their young. But Krathix didn't attack. Instead, the ambassador crouched beside the group, studying Maya with those calculating eyes. Shadow that hunts immediately scrambled to her parent, mandibles still attempting that foreign expression. The silence stretched for 3 full seconds. Then Ambassador Krathix's mandibles twitched. Just slightly. An experimental movement. And Maya, fearless or foolish, or perhaps understanding something deeper than Owen could grasp, smiled wider. "It's a human thing," Maya explained, her voice steady and warm. "We show joy this way. Happiness. It means, I'm safe with you. You're safe with me." The translation matrix hummed, converting her words into the clicking, subsonic language of the Caliph. Ambassador Krathix processed this information. Then, in a moment that would be analyzed by xenopsychologists for decades to come, the predator, the warrior who'd personally led the siege of Tarsus Prime, attempted a smile. It was terrible. A grotesque parody of human expression translated through alien anatomy. But it was also, undeniably, deliberate. By all the stars. Owen breathed. The footage had spread through the outpost within hours. By day 2, it had reached the inner colonies. By week's end, it was broadcast across every human station from Sol to the Outer Rim, and somehow impossibly it had made its way to Calith space. Owen found Maya in Observation Deck 12, watching the stars wheel past the viewports. "You've become famous," he said, settling beside her. "The woman who taught predators to smile." Maya laughed. That same genuine sound that had somehow bridged an evolutionary gulf. "I didn't teach them anything. I just shared something human." The Xenosic team thinks you've triggered a fundamental shift in Calith cultural expression. They're calling it emotional mimicry as a bonding mechanism. There are 12 research papers already in review. Let them write their papers. Maya gestured to her datapad, where messages scrolled endlessly. "I've been getting transmissions from Calith parents across their territories. They want to know more about human child rearing, about play, about expressions of affection." Owen shook his head in wonder. "A species that conquered through strength? Learning gentleness from us. The irony isn't lost on anyone. Maybe that's the point," Maya said softly. "Everyone expects humans to be special, because we're tough, or clever, or adaptable. But what if our real strength is this?" She touched her smile. "The ability to show vulnerability, to express joy, to connect without words." Back in Recreation Bay 7, the Cubs had returned for their daily session. This time, a dozen more Calith juveniles had joined, their parents watching with what might have been hope, and as Maya began teaching them another human game, peekaboo, which translated hilariously into Calith as hunt but not hunting, Owen realized she was right. The footage hadn't gone viral because it was strange or shocking. It had spread because every being who watched it saw the same thing. A bridge built not from treaties or technology, but from something as simple and profound as a smile. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't aggression, it was joy. And now, across the outpost and beyond, predators and prey alike were learning to share it.